Oh yeah, so the campus, this is the campus that like this is the same campus, right? That like wouldn't let white people into the school. Is that right?
I believe that may have been one of them. I know that Missouri is another one that experienced those sorts of totally ludicrous actions and a total affront to free speech and free expression. But University of California, Berkeley is known for these sorts of subversive types of acts. And it's insane to the level that they've gone to.
It is insane because if you watch the video of these people, they're literally like attacking innocent people. They're attacking civilians. Now the college claims that like, the protesters that were there weren't doing anything wrong.
A patient.
Oh, sorry, an ad just played on my face. Weren't doing anything wrong. They were just protesting. But the 100 to 200 people that kind of ambushed the thing came in and they went crazy, and they're the ones who did everything. But really, this has been something that California, especially California schools, have been kind of endorsing since the start. They talk about they want to break away from the union and everything. I mean, you can almost, it seems like they do want to break away because they're crazy. And then I tie that into the Sarah Silverman thing, where she wants a military overthrow of the president.
That is actually considered treason. If you actually look at the definition of treason by American law standards, it indicates that anybody that advocates the overthrow of a government, whether it be subversively, as Black Lives Matter or Antifa is doing currently, or by actively endorsing that, like Sarah Silverman is doing, and coming out publicly to state that, that's actually treason. And 40 years ago, you would be executed for that sort of crime, because it is a crime.
Right. Well,
it's the highest crime in the land. Treason is the highest crime in a country.
Well, even more so because she's normally a comedian who says kind of outrageous stuff, which is great. I love when she says like crazy fucking shit, and she's a comedian. But she's saying it she's serious, like, so it's not part of her act. Like, she's serious. But also, even more towards treason is the fact that, she's a public figure. So the fact that she's such a public figure and has such an audience to say something like this, it's not just like Bobby Jones up the street started saying it, so it's kind of treasonous or whatever. She's actually saying it publicly, so it's even that much more impactful and crazy.
Exactly. The crime might be the same, but the reach and the potential to affect so many individuals does, like you say, make it much more visible and much more widespread, which could be extremely dangerous.
Give me 1 second. Okay, so yeah, so Sarah Silverman, this is scary stuff what these people are saying, because they know they're in such a celebrity area, and they know, like, if Sarah Silverman says, like, I rape people or something, like, that's not a problem to me. Like, that's like her joke. If she's saying like an outrageous joke, you know what I mean? That is not a problem. Even if she was joking about overthrowing somebody. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly what the context of this is, so I am a little bit nervous now. I don't exactly know, but everyone's saying that she tweeted this. She said, "Wake up and join the resistance. Once the military is with us, fascists get overthrown. Mad King and his handlers go bye-bye."
Now, I think it's actually extremely important, especially for the audience, to understand where this all came from. Because obviously a lot of people turned on their televisions the other day and saw what was occurring, but probably didn't know exactly why it was occurring. And Milo Yiannopoulos, a very outspoken, conservative, gay Jew who is now Catholic and loves black men, was going to do a speech there at UC Berkeley. And again, you would think a university welcomes free speech and allows everyone to share their opinion. From the very beginning, Antifa and other fascist, radical, anarchist groups have actually been planning to disrupt his speeches, and they've done that multiple times. And with this one, they were able to bus in a lot of these individuals that were protesting, quotations. In fact, what we saw was a full-out riot. And this money is coming from George Soros, who's helping foment this dissent amongst these individuals. But the most alarming thing of all is that these individuals, including Sarah Silverman, don't seem to have any grasp of political ideology. So they'll call somebody a Nazi and a fascist, although those are two totally different things, even though totalitarianism might be used with each of those ideologies, they're different. And they're going out and calling everybody a fascist, a Nazi, a communist, but they're the ones who are acting exactly as they feel others are acting, or if you share your discontent, then therefore you're a fascist or you're a Nazi. And they're basically projecting what they know of themselves. They're projecting it onto other people.
I think it's laziness.
It really is mind-boggling to see that so many people are just so clueless about politics that they just take these buzzwords that they hear on Twitter, on YouTube, and they throw them out and label everybody the same. And yet some people still wonder how Donald Trump won.
Yeah, it's funny because I find myself doing it now. I question a lot more than I used to, and I'll say to myself, and I'll still make the mistake sometimes of throwing out, of quickly reacting to something. It's almost, you quickly react to something, you throw it out there, and then somebody says, please, what are you talking about? And then when you find yourself being like, well, wait a minute, I really don't know how to defend that, or I don't know why I said that. Then you realize that you're you've been suckered into the propaganda, or at least that you're, misinformed and you're unjustly, commenting or reacting or accusing somebody of something. It happens all the time now to me. I find myself doing it, and I'm not even like somebody who's conservative or Republican, and I didn't even want to ever cheer for a Republican candidate. But I find myself defending Trump all the time so much that people think that I love Trump. Like people like that I know and personally and family and stuff, they make fun of me and stuff. They're like, "Oh, your boy Trump did this," or "How about your buddy Trump?" or "How about your Republican friends what they did in the Senate and everything." And I'm like, I'm not a Republican person. I'm just right now. People are like, "Well, why are you so heavily been supporting Donald Trump and stuff?" And it's like, well, I used to support, I used to. Not support Bush and not support anything Republican, but I'm just supporting it because I'm just counteracting the stuff that's wrong. I don't care about supporting or not supporting it. I just want to make sure that what we're saying about them is right or wrong. If I'm going to be upset at Donald Trump, it's going to be because he did something that I don't like. It's not going to be because of the slander rhetoric that's been thrown around everywhere, supposedly that's news and fact. I think everybody's lazy now. Everybody just wants to be a part of something or be a part of a group. The second they see something, they make their opinions up on it right away. And if the words like fascist or racist or, misogynist or whatever the hell get attached to it, it becomes a click thing to say on social media. And yeah, nobody really does the research. Only a few do. And most of
that actually speaks to a good point that I just want to add, is that the whole political spectrum has shifted to the left, to the extreme left, over the last 30 years due to the social engineering that they've been doing in schools and universities and so forth. So what used to be defined as classical liberalism, and you would probably fall within this definition, and that's why people just are so confused and saying, oh, well, you support Trump and, this and that. Their idea of the political spectrum does not reflect reality, the fact that it's been totally skewed towards the left. So classic liberalism is, I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. That's classical liberalism. Now, what we currently see and experience with what is called liberalism, it's not. It's called progressivism. And what that is, and we see that totally with the left today, is I disapprove of what you say, and I will publicly shame you, lobby to have you censored, and demand you be fired from your job. That is the clearest difference between what we used to know as classical liberalism, which was anti-war during the Vietnam era, that was pro-social services during the civil rights movement. But that has shifted so much to the left now that liberalism really doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. What you just said is exactly true. It's so weird. It's become about shaming people. You know what it is? And I think these people did exist before, but I think social media is so powerful now that it's different, to be honest. I think it really does have to do with social media, because I do think that a lot of these people did exist before, but now what's happening is... So let's say like in 2004, remember George Bush? There was a lot of uprising over George Bush. I could count myself in that. I got up on stage. I was in a band, and we had packed an upstairs venue that was 300 people, and I began to, you know, at that moment I was actually upset at, you know, September 11th just happened, and then I remember a year later we were back there, and I was like ranting. I would rant about, you know, Bush and stuff like that. And I wasn't happy that we went over there in the war and the stuff that happened, and people were just really angry about it. Nine Inch Nails was going to play MTV Music Awards, and I was really excited for, because MTV really didn't do a lot of rock music anymore, or especially the older rock that I liked. They moved on to rap and things like that, and just other different sounds, stuff that I didn't really like. So I was like, wow, well, you know, Nine Inch Nails is going to be there. But Nine Inch Nails wanted to do a song, and they wanted to have a big thing where they basically speak out against Bush. You know, and George Bush, there was going to be like a big image of George Bush, and they were going to do this big thing. That was disallowed. They were actually kicked off the show because they refused to not do it. They said, you can't be on the show if you do that. So MTV at that time won't allow Nine Inch Nails on the show because they want to speak out against George Bush. And this is years after the war and the September 11th and everything. And if that happened nowadays, it would be the opposite. They would have encouraged it, and they would have done it, I bet. But
don't you see the hypocrisy there is that even after George Bush comes to power in 2000 and there are massive protests about his inauguration, that the media quickly stepped into line. So any criticism of Bush essentially was political suicide or career suicide if you were part of the media. So for basically for the last 16 years, the media has basically kept their mouth shut with both progressive and Republican presidents. But when Trump comes out and actually puts a wrench into the entire corrupt system, that's when the media starts speaking out about it. That just goes to show the not only hypocrisy of the mainstream media, but the fact that they're bought and paid for already.
But this is also part of what I wanted to get into, which is like the change of social media. See, back then, all these people that got mad over things like this, like I had girlfriends at the time and people and stuff, and we all were mad. We all said sort of similar things that are said now on media, online rather, on social media. You know, we say things like, you know, we need to take him, we need to somehow get rid of him and stuff like that. Like, I had thoughts of that stuff at that time. Like, people said stuff like that. You know, we need to get rid of him. Like, he needs to get out of here. Like, he hates black people. He hates this. He hates that. Those are all things that I thought at the time. After Katrina and after certain things, he hates America. He hates our rights. He signed the Patriot Act. He's un-American. He believes in torture. All these things. And so I thought he was terrible. And if I could have written, and I did write about some of it on my like live journal and stuff like that. But if I could have written this stuff easily, like, and sent it to media, like had Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that, I would have said that. Then other people's similar thoughts would have picked up, and it would have become an idea, and it would have became actual thought. But really, like, the next day you're like, that was crazy that I thought that, or that I said that. But with social media, there's like a snowball effect that allows something, it creates itself, and like people go crazy. And I think that's what you're seeing. And now people are realizing they can make a difference by speaking out. And then everybody becomes spoiled on social media.
I would disagree with you. I do not believe that this is because of social media, and I do believe there is a difference even 15 years ago with the way that people were acting when it came to public discourse. What's basically happened since that time, and more due to politically correct society and so forth, is it's created this false victimhood mentality in people and an entitlement. So not only do people like Sarah Silverman think that they're entitled to share their totally misconstrued opinion, but they also think that any criticism of that opinion is a personal and direct attack to them because of that victimhood mentality, which is totally false.
Well, it's just like Donald Trump, you know, kicking people out of his rallies when they become disruptive and stuff. And people talk about, oh, he's like a Nazi, he's like Hitler, throwing people out for their opinions. But it's funny, those people that say that are like literally exactly what they're saying. They're what they're upset
What
about.
about all the people that were thrown out of the Bernie or Clinton rallies because they were critical of those two individuals and wore a shirt that perhaps said Hillary for jail or for prison, or Bill is a rapist, or what
Yeah.
about
Well, they would
these
say,
issues? What about Benghazi? And there's been multiple times where people were forcibly removed from Clinton rallies. There was one black man that had like three guys just throw him right out. They had him in a headlock and his arms behind his back, and he was there to protest Hillary Clinton. But you get very little play on that because it doesn't fit the narrative of the mainstream media that only Republicans can be evil.
yeah, I mean, and
The problem is it's also on anybody from the right. It doesn't matter if they're not a Republic. Maybe they lean towards the right. So they think, well, you know what? It makes sense that the government not be that big, that they don't spend money on things like foreign aid to terrorist countries and such. So they're not necessarily avowed to the Republican Party, but they don't fit the left side of the spectrum, and they have certain views that are considered conservative. The problem is that it doesn't matter who's on the right. The left will just say everybody on the right. Doesn't matter if they're Republican, if they're libertarian, if they're conservative. Everyone's a Nazi. Everyone.
I don't understand how the people on the left right now. I spent the first 10 years of the 2000s attacking the Republican side of things, the right side. And now I'm finding myself really concerned about the left. I'm concerned about all of it. I'm on the outside, but it's just amazing to me that the left side, the Democrats, the liberals, these progressives, that they would basically bring that to me. That they would basically disallow free speech and thought and want to censor people's speech and censor people's opinions. Like, that's crazy. So I just don't. I can't fathom that in 2017 they want to censor people. They hate what people stand for so much. They want to overthrow. I didn't get my way. I'm going to kill the president.
In fact, they hate what their own people have to say, because an individual by the name of Sally Boynton Brown, who is the current Democratic Party chair, actually came out and said that Americans have to be taught to shut their mouths if they are white. And this is coming from the Democratic Party.
Yeah, the Democrats, they were like, we need new leaders, and they shouldn't be white people. Like, and this is coming from white people. Like, what the hell?
I thought this party was the one of inclusivity.
Yeah, it makes no. I mean, that's a crazy person speaking. Like anybody who's
no, that's a mainstream Democratic representative.
No, I know that's
what's insane.
Well, I know, I got you that, but she's crazy. I mean, that's all there is to it. She's crazy, and she's misguided, and she's white, so you can't say she's racist, but that just tells you she's crazy. I mean, you would never.
It's the party that's crazy, because she was told to say that.
Yeah,
it's the party's plan, its policy that says this is the line that we're now drawing, and everyone in this party is now going to adhere to that policy, and we're all going to promote it. So she's taking her orders. It's the Democratic Party that's basically lost their marbles.
They've lost their minds. I mean, it's really, how did you screw this up? You had Obama. Like, I mean, I voted the first time for Obama. I cheered for Obama.
You had $1.2 billion from George Soros that was given to Hillary Clinton, as well as other money from Arab states and stuff, and she still lost the election.
I may have continued to vote Democrat or voted. I'm not voting at all, but I would have continued maybe to vote for them or voted for them next time had they not become crazy. They'd become fucking crazy criminals. Like, and they're crazy. Nobody should ever say, we need all the black people to be representing us first, or we need all the white people to be representing. The fact that if race comes into play with, like, how your politics are, like that before, when you're sort of trying to regroup and think about what you're going to do in the next 4 years, if you have to bring up that we need to change around who represents us racially in 2017, that's bizarre. I mean, that's so bizarre.
It's divisive.
We just elected a black guy. I mean, we just elected a black guy for 8 years. Like, what are they doing? Like, this is like 2000. I could see if, like, after George Bush, like, another Republican took over for 8 years, and now the Democrats are going insane. They don't know what to do. But it just makes no sense. Like, they're crazy. Like, what else can there be to describe this? I mean, I don't see. I mean, it's true that Donald Trump is put a lot of white people around him, but he's also put, it doesn't matter to him.
He's put a lot of women around him. He's put a lot of people that aren't white around him, if you want to call that people of color, whatever is the fancy term today. Again, any term that uses to define someone as different is divisive. I mean, either we're all human or we're not.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all.
We either bring value as ourselves, doesn't matter what we look like. We bring merit to the job that we bring, and we're judged on that merit that we bring. Doesn't matter what you look like. It's the quality of work that you do. Now, if you start to try to divide, okay, well, you're African American. Oh, no, I prefer person of color, or I prefer black. It's like, okay, well, when does it end? All you're doing is just creating more and more labels, trying to keep everyone separate and divided, and it's pure insanity.
Yeah, it's really weird, man. I don't understand it. It's got to be the babies, these baby mentality. This everybody gets a ribbon, people. It's the more I see
exactly.
From it,
it's an entitled mentality.
It's the entitlement. It's the mid 20-year-olds and below. Like even people our age, my age, are doing it. But it's really those people that are under 30. Anybody 30 and under or under 30, it's like it's really bad with them. Like especially the ones coming up in college now. Anybody who just got out of college or is in college right now. I mean, this is crazy. We're talking about safe zones and you know what I mean. Where you can say certain things and people getting fired because people don't feel comfortable around them. We're talking about people just the minute you tattletale on somebody, something is done. It goes to the social media thing. If enough people complain, you get shut off. If you say something people don't like, you get turned off. You're gone. See you later.
But that's the thing. Universities are supposed to prepare people for the real world where you're going to encounter things that you don't find pleasant. Are you going to tell your boss you didn't like that he said that your performance review was subpar?
Well, that's what's going to happen.
You're fired.
I'm fired. I mean, I just got fired the other day. It's like I'm not going to go back. I'm not flipping. You know what I mean? Oh, there's something wrong. But these people have a crybaby mentality. This is going to produce more shootings and stuff like that. This is going to be people. It's going to be like in Asia. You know what I mean? This kind of happens a little bit over there in a way, in a different way. You know what I mean? People are going to be like, I can't believe I lost my job. What do I do? I've never been told no before. And you know what it does? It allows a lot of people to be prosperous. The people that never get in trouble, that never open their mouths, that stay docile, they're allowed probably a better life than many other people before. But what it does do is it alienates and puts on stress and pressure under the people who do get flagged or who do get under the microscope. It's intense and it's torturous almost. It's going to produce more shootings, and it's this crybaby mentality. People aren't used to no, or you're fired, or you're wrong. And so you're going to see all kinds of issues. And this is happening in college. So this is like the influential thing. Like you said, this is right before somebody goes out into the real world. The last thing they're being taught is, there'll always be a safe place. There's always be a safe space for you. And if you complain, you can get somebody, fired or whatever. And it just makes everyone believe their way or no way. I'm right. You're not right. And if you say you're right, I'm going to have you silenced. I mean, that's basically what's happened. That's crazy. I don't want anybody silenced. Why do people think like this? But they do. They're bullies. They're not physical bullies. They're mental bullies. And that's sometimes worse. I don't know, man. This is crazy times.
Well, the real key to understanding this is Marxism. And if you do the research into this, you will find that essentially everything that's being witnessed in the United States and in Western society today is point for point exactly as the Marxist Manifesto and other similar books have basically laid out the plan. An individual by the name of Saul Alinsky, who came out in the 60s with a book called Rules for Radicals, which was something that not only Barack Obama but Hillary Clinton praised, said that essentially there are 8 levels of control that must be obtained before you're able to create a social state. So healthcare, poverty, debt, gun control, welfare, education, religion, and last but not least, class warfare. When you're able to create such disarray in every single one of those points, the people will be begging for some sort of autocratic government of a tyrannical nature to come in and save them. At least that's the perception that some people have about big government. They're here to save us. And in fact, really what that is going to do is enact a total totalitarian system. And this is all laid out, and it's been out at least since the 60s. So if the research is done, you will see that what you're experiencing right now is point for point the plan that globalists, because that's really what Marxism is, it's globalism in a totalitarian manner, to control the United States and force it into a totally different system.
Yeah, and I have seen that book before. I heard them speaking about it with Hillary Clinton when they were accusing her of being a devil worshiper or whatever the hell. I don't know about. I'm not so sure about all that, but maybe. But it's.
I am.
Okay.
It's following what's called Cloward-Piven's strategy, which was outlined in 1966 by Richard Cloward and Francis Piven. And basically, it calls for a system that overloads the U.S. public welfare system in order to precipitate a crisis that would lead to a replacement of the welfare system with a national system of, quote, guaranteed annual income and thus an end to poverty, which in theory is what they're saying. But in reality, all you're doing is enacting a totalitarian system. And this essentially it fits perfectly with the Hegelian dialectic, which means problem, reaction, solution. You manufacture that problem. You offer people, you know the reaction that it's going to cause, a violent one, right, and you come in to save the people with your solution. And quite often, you lose your liberty for more supposed protection.
It'd be like if I hacked 10 people's computers and gave them a big virus and then sent them an email that I'm a company that fixes computer viruses, and then I made money off it.
That's the perfect analogy for that.
All right. Well, I get that. And yeah, it happens more than people think. Nobody believes these things, but it's like, just think about all the terrible things that people would do. And that's the reason why that analogy is pretty cool is because it happens in life all the time. Like, you know what I mean? You pop a bunch of tires and you stick a mechanical services sign up the street. You know, I mean, it's just, people do this stuff all the time in weird ways to get business, and it's horrible. You know, it happens when, it even happens when you take your car to the mechanic. You know, if you take it to a dishonest mechanic, he tells you, I had to change the fuel injector too, because, and maybe you didn't have to do that. Oh, you had a problem with your rotors. Maybe you didn't, but they had to make money that day. And you just think, wow, my mechanic's a great guy. You know, but meanwhile he's doing that to you the whole time. And even if you found out about it, you'd almost wouldn't believe it, and you'd almost still wouldn't have a problem. And it's almost like too when somebody gets abducted, and after a while they start sympathizing with their captor. You almost just like, this is the way this is the way it is now, and you know, it's weird, but it's like that's how it is. Like, you don't want to believe that Hillary did these things. You don't want to believe that Bill did these things. Everybody loved Bill so much because the projection of him was so positive in the country.
Very much. It is a Stockholm syndrome.
There you go, Stockholm syndrome. That's what I was looking for. But there you go, guys. Those are the comments that we wanted to make. We did about 30 minutes here about Sarah Silverman, UC Berkeley, and what's going on around the country right now. Hope you guys can subscribe to the channel. Click the like button down below. But don't forget to hit the red subscribe button. You'll miss on our other podcasts and videos. And let us know what you think. Thanks to Dave Rose for being here. And we'll see you in the next one.